Interesting times. ETFs are live. Market is back on its ass. All the bears are out of their caves again. All the bulls are back to the stables. Um, Disaster struck. The self-fulfilling prophecy has prevailed again. Maybe. Um, Expectations met, not met. Regardless, a lot of people are still very disappointed. Um, where do we go from here? I don't know. Um, I still believe in some way, shape, or form we're going up. The bull market is literally inevitable. It will have to come sometime because the economy needs it in a way, right? And then we're not just talking crypto. Um, but when that will happen, how it will happen, we do not know. And I think we're not going to go too deep in that on this episode. What is interesting is that whenever price goes down, people start noticing the details again, right? We're no longer interested in which coin goes up and why ours is not. No, we are focusing on what the team is doing wrong and why. As a result, I decided to leave Quamfy Lounge, leave the Dutch groups, leave almost every group except for Counchill um, and some of the more smaller, more intimate groups. Because I just got exhausted from everybody's short-term memory and endless, in my mind, complaining about everything that is not going right, while everything, in my opinion, is actually getting more tangible and better to a degree. And I'm not talking price. Um, Price will follow. So we'll be having a look today at what is the team doing, right? What are the communications? Um, where is this all heading? What has been published last couple of weeks? Um, so yeah, we'll take it there, and then we'll see how we digress as we do with the Quamfy Show. And Tim, good to
Yeah,
have you here.
yeah,
How are you
glad to be
doing,
here.
man?
Uh, I don't know, a little bit confused. I think a bit overwhelmed. I think overwhelmed is the right description to describe my current state of mind. Going all over the place. That's mainly because I'm well in the process of starting to buy my own property, my own house, and that's when you start doing visits to apartments. You start doing the inquiries. You start sorting out your personal finances. Well, everyone must be quite familiar with this process. And then one of the main questions that you also have is how much of your own money do you need to bring in? And it will not necessarily be a surprise that Q&T is part of my own money, right? So it's part of the sum that I can bring in. And I've dedicated a certain part of my portfolio for this task. And then it's kind of depressing to see Q&T at like 140 euros around the first week of January. And now we're in the third week. And it's at 95 euros again. And honestly, we've all dealt with these kind of price movements. But at the moment, those funny little numbers on your screen start meaning that you can actually change a bathroom or a kitchen, or you can buy a nice TV. Like Jarno has this huge unit in his house. You know, that it actually starts converting to actual material stuff that you can actually buy and use. Then it's kind of more difficult, I guess, because I've become quite numb to any kind of price action. But at this stage, I'm getting not necessarily emotional, but it does start to affect my state of my peace of mind, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense. It's not that I'm overexposed because um, this is a long-term strategy that I am in. It's this piece of game of chess in a way.
yeah,
I've thought of every move, and I'm still prepared for every move that will happen. But it's still kind of depressing when you set a sell order at 140 euros. It misses it by like 2 euros, and now it's like 95.
It's a form of anxiety, right? I
It is a
think
form of anxiety.
I,
Absolutely.
I think if we look at the amount of money that we both will need for our let's say our expansion plans for this year, right? I want to upgrade my garden and maybe um the thing on my house. Um, it's gonna be close to six figures, right?
That's an insane amount of money.
What we need, and yes, there are some QT that are going to have to die for that, probably. But yeah, if then QT loses like 30% of its value,
In a couple
that's
of weeks, and you see just a third of your entire whole net worth just evaporating. That kind
yeah,
of hits you, and it's never. And it's interesting because the other way around, we've also seen the pumps upwards.
yeah,
They don't really affect you because it can always get more and more and more. But once it starts going the other way, you start noticing the details again, and that is exactly what you just described. And to add to that, that's not necessarily about me, but I was in the Quamfy Lounge. I barely engage in the Quamfy Lounge. I mean, I scrolled through it. It's usually the same stuff, but I think it was Dr. Poppers bringing that up earlier today. That once the market sentiment shifts in a negative direction, people start noticing the details. And today's discussion was no exception, really. So it's kind of really interesting that you bring up that point. But how are you? I was talking about myself quite a bit.
yeah. No, that's okay. Yeah, doing well enough. Like I said, the problem is not necessarily the finances. It's the factor of time.
Yeah,
A sense of urgency, right? We have plans still to get our garden squared away before June, preferably, right? Um, so that's 5 months. Um, I think everything is still looking better, but we still need to see the price action to go along with this. And it is a big difference if you
yeah,
need, let's say, six figures. Um, whether you can sell one unit for 90 or for 150. Right?
yeah,
Even now, for the math, psychologically, and 4 or 5 months is a long ass time.
yeah.
But at a certain point, decisions need to get made. And on the one hand, I'd say, okay, maybe I'd like to have more fiat on the back end. And that is true to a degree. But fiat on the back end doesn't make you money, right? And we are both not yet at the stage of wealth where we are more risk averse, right? Where if you've
Yeah, yeah.
made your wealth, then you can be more risk averse, a little bit more strategic, and just settle for steady incremental gains rather than the exponential gains, which changes things a lot. But yeah, so there's a little bit of quote unquote anxiety there. I mean,
Yeah.
we have agreed to nothing. If Quant proceeds to go back to 40, it will not. If it does, we can still like, okay, motherfucker. Yeah, we had this all nice little plan for a garden. Um, we're just not going to right now,
Yeah.
which
And I
which
think,
is not
oh, sorry.
not which is not a disaster, but it's not ideal. I will not pull the trigger on my fucking garden to get it redecorated if Quant is below 100, because that would just be, there's no point,
Waste
right?
of, yeah, waste of potential capital, I think. And
Yes.
I kind of really see, I think it's kind of interesting. At the beginning of the year, well, first episode, we made the prediction we was going to pull the trigger first on selling. And the lower the price goes, the more critical it gets, right, in this direction. But you mentioned the fact that there's this kind of anxiety, right? And this feeling of urgency here. And I feel it. And with you, it's not. I think your case is a little bit less. Like
Less
it's more of a
profound, yeah.
point of. Yeah, it's like an investment to an already existing situation. And for
Yeah.
me, it's like the first step on the housing market, which is
Yeah, you need to get the fuck out of your parents' place.
yes, but there's not this. But there's
Psychologically.
no yes, but there's no real sense of urgency because the
No, no,
longer I
no.
wait, the more financially stable I'll become in the future. If that makes any sense, right? But the
Yeah.
problem then is like this is a housing market, at least here in the Netherlands. I think for most people listening to this, you'll probably feel familiar because I feel like we're in a housing crisis all around the world. Not necessarily because of a lack of space, because it's a financial
Yeah.
crisis, right? It's triggered by interest rates and the financial situation of the world. Um, but I do have this feeling here that I need to strike at some points, right? Because really, you're looking for a gem, but that gem will not. There will be a limited space of time,
Yeah.
right? And because you're searching in a certain, you have um, this window, right, of like financial possibilities, what you're willing to invest, and you have a closing window in terms of time because there won't be a lot of time to make the proper decisions, which kind of makes it difficult to really plan this properly. I mean, sure, I can wait, it will become easier, but I might also miss out on potential opportunities. If it makes any sense. So you need to be active in this market, but I feel overwhelmed, just to put it shortly. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of potential decisions that you can make, and every
Well,
decision can turn out really well, but it can also, in hindsight, be a really bad decision. It's
yeah,
kind
and
of like
especially in housing, right? There are so many variables that you need to
there
take
are,
into
yeah,
account, and there's a lot of people you need to trust, and especially if you're like a first time um, aspiring homeowner. Um, I mean, if you think crypto is daunting, well, good luck buying a fucking house, especially if you get an apartment and you have this owners, how do you call that? Um,
yeah, homeowners association. I think
that
corporation
that's
of
the,
owners. Yeah,
that's the thing. And there's all these constructions and costs that are um, hidden.
hidden costs exactly, and the thing is, it's also a very asymmetrical market because
Yeah,
you will always have the people who are you can hire an expert and they will probably have more information, but they might not. That doesn't guarantee you that they will have the best insights into the market itself, right? Because they still want to sell you a house, so they will always be a little bit biased. Hey, you probably should buy it because then I earn money. And that's
yeah,
the thing. It's a very asymmetrical market. You don't have all the information available to you. You know that there are other parties which have also pieces of information. Um, that makes it pretty difficult in combination with a speculative investment strategy that I take,
yeah,
especially with crypto. So yeah,
yeah,
there's a ton of information, and I feel overwhelmed. That's the thing,
yeah.
and it will probably crystallize, and it's a game of chess for me. I will take my time. I will take a rational decision, but that rational decision will still not be necessarily favorable for me. I might end up making a bad decision, but I will only notice as time progresses. You just
Yeah.
don't know up front. That's the thing.
No, no, no. Eventually, you have to pull the trigger. But
Yeah,
if markets are down, they are right now. Um,
and there's
it
also
puts your
this.
it puts
Uh,
everything in perspective, right?
yeah, yeah, and then okay. The final point about this, and it's also, I think you have two separated rules, especially in our case where we do can bring in our own capital. You have a lot of people who can barely bring in any capital, so they have to do it with their mortgage and just bring in a little bit of money, and that's usually their entire bank account. And for us,
Oh,
it's like without going into any details necessarily, but for people listening to this show, it's usually a part of your portfolio that you invest, but you simply allocate in a different asset instead of crypto or stocks. You start investing it in a house. So you have a comfort of living, which is one thing, but you also have the investment part of it. And that makes it two-sided and difficult. Because can you resell that house again in a couple of years for profit? How does that
Yeah,
work? You need to take all
preferably.
these things into, preferably, you need to take all these things into
Yeah,
consideration.
yeah.
So yeah.
And there's also the factor you might be so goddamn wealthy in 5 years that you can just put a can of gas into it and just light it up and watch it burn while you film it for YouTube for your favorite Quamfy Show channel, and just buy
Yeah,
a new house outright.
let's not put me in prison because if I burn down an apartment, they'll probably send me to prison.
You can
Yeah,
burn down
that's
your own apartment, can you?